It's good to have goals. It's better to move towards them. Friends, grasshoppers, this is the Formless Podcast, number 96.
96.
Dang. I got to say something before we get going here. First of all, every time I hit that button and we get the music playing and I look over at you, like I'm like trying to be composed, trying to be like stoic, and then I look over at you and you're smiling and you're bobbing your head and I can't help but smile myself. And so thank you for that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It immediately changes my mood. Like, hey, this is fun. We're having a good time. And so from me to you, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
That's, by the way, who was that quote by?
So that's kind of a funny story. My middle son, Coltrane, said that. We were driving in the car and we were just talking like we randomly do. The whole family's in the car and we're talking. And we were talking about goals and different things and like what we have planned for the future and stuff. And Cole just piped up and said that. And I was like, text me that like right now, because I'm going to forget that. And I want to remember that and I'll use it. And so he sent me the quote, the date, and his full name. So it's trademarked, I guess. I don't know.
Wow.
But yeah, so from the mouth of babes.
It's good to have goals. It's better to move towards them.
Yeah.
That's like only something like a young person could come up. Well, I mean, I don't want to lock it in and say that, but like that's what like a younger person would say. Just simple, boiled down.
And it's true. Like everybody's got goals, right? Oh, I'm going to have this one day, or I'm going to do this, or one day I'm going to. It's great to have those, but it's useless if you're not going to work towards them, So yeah. Anyway, I just was like, before I forget that, you need to text that to me. So I have it like in my phone, so I'll remember. And then I was like, I don't have to work this week. I'm done, right?
Yeah,
I got the quote. So
that's good.
That's the first time I think I've used a quote from somebody I actually know. Everything else has come out of books or the internet or, movies, or songs and whatnot.
Wow, that's good. Yeah. Speaking of goals, how you doing on your New Year's goals?
Well, I've been working on them. I've actually worked on them. This week, not at all, because I've been on vacation. So I've been on leisure mode. But previous to that, I mean, I've worked on them, just not every day this week. But last week, I hit it real hard and was able to exercise, stretch, do all that stuff, work on the podcast every day. So it was cool. A lot more of it was behind the scenes than up front and out in the open, but I was able to do it. So
excellent.
Go me.
Yeah. Okay.
What about you?
I'm continually hitting the gym, like really massively, staying on my goal there. Like I'm really working on my bench press. Yeah. I've done it 2 times this week where I loaded it to the max, like what I am trying to achieve. Oh, okay. Not 225 pounds, like nowhere near that, but I loaded up 185 pounds. So you've got the 45 pound barbell, like the bench press bar. And then you've got a 45 and a 45 pounds on each end. So 45 pounds on each end. And then I put a 25 pounder and a 25 pounder on each end. And so that's 185, right? Right? Math? 45, 45.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So 90 plus 50 would be 140, and the bar is 45. Yeah, so 185. Right. Just making sure we got the weightlifters out there are going to be like, no, that's wrong. Like,
you weakling, it's only 165.
Yeah. So 185, and I tried because I work out alone. Right?
Yeah.
There's lots of people at the gym, but I don't go there with somebody like a lot of the other.
You don't have a spotter or partner with you.
Well, I don't have a partner, but I get a spotter for me.
That's safe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And especially when you're going heavy. And so I was doing my bench this week, and I was like, I'm going to try it for 185. And I grabbed this one guy, never had asked him before. nice guy named Sheldon, and young guy. And so I was like, hey, spot me. And so I got the 185 off the bar. Like I got it off, and then I went to press it, and I could only get it about a couple inches off my chest. And I was like,
okay.
And he barely helped me. Like he was just like using fingers to help lift the bar
smart. Okay.
off my chest. Yeah. And so, so there was that. And so he was really encouraging, and I was like, man, and then throughout the week, he's been like, I would see him at the gym.
Okay.
And he would be like, he's like, hey man, how'd you get? Did you get at it again? Did you lift that 185? And he's just been totally encouraging. And I'm like, nah, man, I haven't yet. And then the other day, I was like on Thursday, I was like, I'm gonna try that again, like 185. And so I grabbed another guy that I've had. That I've kind of met at the gym, and he spotted me a couple times. I was like, hey, give me a spot on this. And so loaded up 185 again. Bam, got it off the bar, dropped it, and pushed it up, and I got it a little bit further than what I did.
So you're making progress.
Yeah, it was just a little bit further to where I was like, oh man, like it was almost there. I can't. Okay. But I tried it twice this week, and so. But then after the second time, this other guy, Ian, that had helped me, he's like, hey man, he's like, try this technique, like use this technique, like when you do this. He's like, do you do this? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, try this, like try bouncing the weight off your chest. So like you get it off the bar, drop it, and then bounce it and push it right back.
Give yourself a little like momentum.
A little momentum, yeah, because I was like letting it down and like guiding it down, but then your muscles are tense the whole way down. And you're kind of almost pre-exhausted a little bit once you hit your chest. Especially when you're like max weight. So he's like, don't drop it on your chest, but just like let it fall, and you're just kind of like guiding it as it falls, and then bounce it off your chest. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to try that next week.
Right on. And
so, so it's technique. We go into martial arts and we learn technique, and so in the weightlifting, there's technique as well. And I knew that, but like the guys that like lift regularly and read magazines and watch videos, they're like learning these techniques, and like
that's their jam.
That's their kung fu, as you would say from one of the past episodes.
Last week,
their kung fu,
or the week before.
Yeah. So they. So and then that one of the guys, Ian, he had also given me another tip. He's like, well, guide the bar down to the kind of like your chest line, but below the nipples, like the nipples on your chest, like kind of get it below that, like, and don't go like above the nipples. Like I was doing my bench press,
like up here more.
Yeah, because then your arms are doing this, where he's like, no, you want your arms kind of close in, and so like to do that, go below the nipples. And I was like, oh, it naturally, if you try to go below your, like hit the bar right here. It's better.
Yeah, because you're not all like chicken winged out,
yeah. So, I mean, if there's any guys listening that are like, no, that's not the correct technique, email me in, and and let's
clue me in.
Yeah, and tell us. But so I've been really staying on the goal and going to the gym and hammering the protein and trying to just like really stay on my goals for like what I said. Like I just want to be able to bench press 225 pounds one time.
And then are you done after that?
No. I go to the gym and I see those guys that are lifting 315. I'm like, holy cow. They've got 345 weights on each end of the dumbbell. I'm sorry, the barbell. And so 315, and they're like pumping like 6, 7,
dang,
8. And I'm like, that's 315 pounds. Like that's like 100 and like 40 some pounds more than I can do right now. I'm like, that's crazy.
Wow, that's impressive.
So I just want 225. Like 225 says like, yep, you have strength. Like that's a strong guy. Yeah. And then anything above that's like, okay. So like, bonus. No, I'm gonna hit 225 and keep going.
Right on. So I've been meaning to ask you this actually for a little while. Is it because like the gym that you go to is literally next door to the martial arts studio?
Correct.
So do you find it easier to go to both or is it harder now? Because I've seen you more often when I'm here now. So like, do you find it like it's just part of your routine now?
It's like a routine now. It's like, oh, I'm going to hit I'll hit the gym at like 5:30, 6, work out there for an hour and a half, and then come over to class.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of nice to have that routine. But then I come to karate class and I'm like, exhausted. Like back when I was doing the CrossFit, I loved CrossFit. CrossFit was great. It was fun. It was a heck of a workout. And I would do that.
And then come to the gym.
And then come here. And I was just like, like totally exhausted. And so I'm still gassed when I come from the other gym, but that's more of like my pace and what I want to do. Whereas CrossFit, you're in a class and they have a program you're doing.
A program,
for the day, like the workout of the day, the WOD workout of the day. And so, anyway, so yeah, it's been really good to, and I've noticed my strength has definitely increased and my flexibility too. Like while I'm in the gym, like lifting weights, like say you do a bench press, you do, your 8 reps, boom, re-rack the weight. Well, rather than sitting there for 1 minute and like just resting and breathing, I'll actually like do the splits, like work on my splits. Like I can't do the full side splits, but I'll get down and spread it out and stretch. Yeah. So I'm maximizing my time
every minute. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
People walk by in the gym and they're like,
"What the heck's that crazy guy doing?"
Yeah, this guy's a
forging steel.
Yeah, a guy that's doing the splits. Like,
right on.
So. But if it's a hard workout and I'm like, ugh, like then I'll just be like, okay, catch your breath,
Yeah.
Not try to do some stretching in between sets. But anyways.
Well, yeah, I would assume it's a little different when you're like trying to hit max rep or max weight. It might be, you might need that breather minute. But if it's not absolutely necessary, then stretch, do something else. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. And it's like, to go from like the dojo where I'm like totally comfortable and like, okay, I know how things work here. And then to go into the gym and like those guys, like you said, that's like their kung fu.
Yeah.
Right. And they're there 6 days a week, 5 days a week. They know the gym. They know every machine. They know a lot of the workouts, what to do with the dumbbells and what to do with the barbells and different techniques. And it's interesting to be like, okay, like, I've had to empty my cup and enter a new environment that I've been in before. I've had gym memberships before.
Yeah.
But to like be like, okay, let's start over again.
It's a new environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really important, I think, to put yourself out there. So there's this, my wife used to work with a gal who got really into bodybuilding. And I don't know for sure. I'll have to talk to her, but I think she is a personal trainer over here at the gym. And she's like jacked. Like she went from my understanding, and I don't know, she'd probably be a really good person to talk to, but she went from not working out, not exercising to like joining the gym because she wants to get healthy or whatever. And then like just falling in love with it and being obsessed. And like now she competes and goes all over the place. But I saw like, how you see somebody and you get this mental picture of what they look like, and then you don't see them for a while and it's like, oh wow, if they're a kid, you've grown, It was like that, like not seeing this person for 8 years and then seeing them like it's their face is the same, but everything else is completely changed. And like this gal is jacked now. Like she can throw some steel. It's pretty impressive. But it's cool. Like different things do different things for you, and like different people have different things that they do. And it's cool to see people get fired up over stuff like that,
Agreed.
What's been happening lately? Anything new? I got a whole bunch.
Yeah, well, I just talked about, staying on my goals. So that's what I've been doing. What
So I've had a whole bunch of shifts in things. So last week we went to Portland.
Yeah, that sounded pretty cool.
It was awesome. It was really awesome. So we put on our sister school, I guess, Sensei Herb Blue in Wisconsin put on a seminar in Portland, which is where our martial art originated. And originally that was something you and I had planned on going, but something came up for you. You had a movie thing going on, and so we couldn't make that together. So I took Hunter. And the way it worked out was kind of, it was one of those things where, like, if it was anything else in life, I would have come up with an excuse to probably not go. The weather was bad. I didn't get off work as early as I'd like to.
Cost too much
money. I was hoping for a tax return that came a week later than I was hoping it would come, all of that sort of thing. So we left Friday. I worked a full day and got home at about 2:00. No, I got home about 1:45. We loaded the car up and we left. I already had things kind of pre-set up, ready to go, but I still had to go home and get Hunter, load the car, but I had lunches packed, things like that, And we start driving and it's dumping rain, just coming down. And I'm tired. I've worked all day. And I was like, all right, Hunter, you can drive and I can sleep, or I'll drive through this mess and you talk to me or we die, because I'm going to fall asleep and crash the car. So that was the most I'd ever heard him talk. He's usually a pretty quiet person. He doesn't talk a lot. So I don't know if I put the fear of God into him or what, but he didn't stop talking the whole way. Wow. So it was really a good father-son kind of bonding thing. Got to just listen to him talk for 8 hours. It was really cool. But anyway, we get to the seminar. Seminar was awesome. Sensei Blue and his team did a phenomenal job. Did some Wu Ying Tao stuff, and it wasn't anything new under the sun, but it was a different insight into what we do. So it made me, I likened it to this morning to watching a movie as a kid and then watching the same movie 20 years later, and you see all of this different stuff that you missed the first time because you didn't understand it, or it just went over your head, or you weren't paying enough attention. So it was a lot like that. We worked on fundamental stuff, but in a different way than what we normally do for me, or a different way than what I was used to. And so it was really awesome. It was inspiring, like always. Sensei Blue was your first martial arts teacher as well, mine and yours. But he still has the same excitement and the same that same fire is still burning there, And so it was really awesome to get that and to get that. It was inspiring, but it was more than just that. It rekindled the same love that I have for martial arts. And it just was yeah, I'm going to do this as long as I can get away with it, So we did that, and then he also taught modern Arnis, so Philippine martial art, and I call myself a dabbler in that. I don't attend classes regularly. It's few and far between for me. Hunter and my wife Brighton both do it a lot more on the regular than I get to, and so they have a lot more experience with that. I have enough to get myself into trouble with it. I know I have a belt in it, but I know just enough to get myself into deep water and go, oh crud, I don't know what to do next here.
Yeah.
But that was really fun. Sensei Blue is a phenomenal teacher, but also he has just a different perspective from the norm for me. And so like to hear him talk about the different things and like one of the things that he brought up when we were doing the stick fighting stuff is like, okay, we're friends, so we're going to hit the stick. But in real life, I'm going to smash your hand with my stick, and that kind of stuff. And it was just a different perspective for me. But the hands down, the coolest thing of the whole trip was getting to meet some of the original students of Wu Ying Mun at the time. Guys from the early 60s that were there. They still have that same, what I imagine to be that same fire and that same spark. And just hearing some of the stories from the old days. One of the guys brought his gi from when he was training in the early 60s. And
it said Wu Ying Mun, which translates to
the Formless gate.
That's what I was.
Oh man, you put me on the spot. I was like,
no, because I was like the Formless gate. I think I'm pretty sure it's the Formless gate, and that was the original name the original name given to what is now Wu Ying Tao. It was originally called Wu Ying Mun.
Yes,
and now it became Wu Ying Tao.
Yeah, and so to hear some of their stories about like competition and sparring and things, and like one of the guys there was. Somebody had asked him what kind of gear, what was the gear like when you were going to these tournaments and sparring and stuff? And he's like, well, we brought our gi, a cup, mouth guard, and tape. So it was, full contact, bare knuckle, like down and dirty, So that was pretty cool just to hear their stories and experiences. And really, with a few small exceptions, it wasn't a whole lot of difference. I mean, obviously now we wear protective gear and, pads and stuff, but I was going over like the different sparring drills and the different drills that we do here. And a lot of them, more than a lot of them, were the same ones that they were doing. And so that was eye-opening. It was like, oh, we haven't strayed that far from what it was, and so it was just really, that part was just awesome. So I made a bunch of contacts there, and hopefully we'll get to talk to them and bring some of them on our show and get to hear some history from them. So that's definitely in the works. And then of course, Sijo, the founder of our style, did he was on Skype. Unfortunately, he wasn't there in person, but he gave a lot of insight. We got to listen to him talk and ask questions and just hear some phenomenal stories about Bruce Lee, about the first school, and just some really, really enlightening things as far as a lot of the they're not tactics, but some of the principles and some of the things we talk about in class, and how originally I personally and a few others thought they were separate things, and how no, they're not. They overlap, and without getting too far into the weeds and going into that, because that stuff's important, and you really got to put it into practice. So I don't want to like go over all that stuff.
Totally.
But it was just it was weird. It was something that I understood. Like in the back of my head, I'm like, oh yeah, I could see how these things relate, but nobody had ever put it into perspective. You know what I mean? Like, it was like seeing a different shade of a color you haven't seen before. It was just like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with that. That makes sense. But I never put it into thought like that. So it was just just an awesome experience. And I'd do it again tomorrow if I could. Yeah. So
and now,
really
out
awesome.
of all the former students you met, how many you met? What? Well, 5, 6, 10? What?
There were 2 guys there that were former students. They showed up to lend support and answer questions and talk. And honestly, in 100% transparency, I ended up ditching out on part of the lessons just to talk to those guys and get some of their insight and stuff. And they were asking me questions too. And it was really good fun. So one of the things that I found really interesting is we have a lot of children in our school. And the school in Wisconsin has a lot of children in school too, or in the school. And that was like, it wasn't that they weren't allowed. They just didn't go after them. These were all young men, young women, and they were there to compete. They were there to spar. They were there to learn, but it was like more, I likened it to more of like a traveling ball team or something. They were all there with a purpose of like, the tournament's coming up next week or in 2 weeks, and we're going to train for that tournament and we're going to go compete. That was the kind of vibe I got, and I didn't really get to delve into that too much, but that was kind of the thing, because they were like, it seemed to me that they were kind of surprised at the fact that there were like a lot of younger kids there. There were adults too, but I would say it was probably a 50-50 split between adults and kids. And so it was they were kind of like, wow, this is really good. And I'm like, well, you gotta teach the younger guys so they can continue on, so they can continue this tradition. So that was really kind of eye-opening to me. I mean, I never heard about it per se, of like what the makeup was of those original classes. So I never asked about it, but I kind of always assumed that it was more of a young men's game or a young women's game. There was also, so I made some contacts there, and then they have a group of the original students that get together every month and go have lunch. And so they're all like in contact with each other, emails or phone calls, texts, whatever. And we traded information, and somehow or another, our name got put into this email chain or text chain. And so I had people contacting me out of the woodwork that weren't there at the seminar, but were like, hey, I was an original student too at one time. And, I got my 2 cents to share and stuff. So that was really cool. And if there's anyone else out there, feel free to contact us. We want to talk to each and every one of you if we can. It was awesome. So I was hoping to get back up there. They're actually doing their lunch today. And that just didn't work out the way I wanted to, unfortunately. So in the next couple of months, we'll figure out a way to get back up there and do a lunch and talk to all those guys, and hopefully get them lined out on the podcast so we can talk to them, because that would be great fun. I didn't do it. Need to take a picture of the Wall of Fame, our Hall of Fame, our lineage.
Yeah. And
we've got Sensei Hovis on there. We got him checked off. He was a guest, but there's 4 more on that specific Wall of Fame that we got to get. And I got confirmed. I have confirmed one of them. I got another one confirmed potentially for a guest. So those are future spots looking down the road a little bit, when time and funds allow.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I managed to check a lot of boxes. So it was good.
That's good.
Yeah. It was just awesome. And then what else happened? I'm going to embarrass my oldest son too. So we get home from the seminar, everything's cool, teach class, just a week of leisure and doing odds and ends. I had to fix a couple of things, leaky shower faucet, leaky toilet faucet, all of that kind of stuff. Just the stuff that you need to do, but you keep putting off because life is in the way. Mm-hmm. You got other stuff that's more important to do. So I got to take care of all that, but get this phone call out of the blue Tuesday. And so we've homeschooled our kids since COVID. And one of the things that Brighton and I have kind of always regretted about pulling them out of public school was some of the things that they are going to miss out on, like prom, mm-hmm. like just different events, different things, team sports, school clubs, things like that, and it's kind of a big deal, but it's not really in the scope of things, you always regret, or at least I do, you always regret, like, did I give my kid every opportunity kind of thing? Well, we're still kind of treading the waters and like figuring out like the different routes to take. So we belong to a group that different families homeschool. And so they get basically like all of our kids, when they finish this, they'll actually get a legitimate high school diploma. And there's different groups that meet up and do different activities. They used to have, before COVID, they had sports teams and stuff. So and they put on a prom and things like that. Since COVID, their things have shifted and they don't do all of the things they used to do. But unbeknownst to Brighton and I, they still have a valedictorian. And at first, I'm like, how does that work? Because like everybody's homeschooled, they're not. You pick your own curriculum. Mm-hmm. You still have to hit the majors. Math, reading, history. Science. They have to have credits and all of that stuff. But there's no telling like what kind of curriculum you pick for your kids versus what kind of curriculum I pick for my kids. That they could be wildly different. So they have different criteria that they base things off of. One of them is your SAT scores. And then your college, like Hunter's taking college courses at Shasta College while on top of his regular homeschool curriculum. And there's one other thing that I forget right off the top of my head. But anyway, Hunter's valedictorian. So Tuesday, we get this phone call from the kids' school. And it's kind of unusual. Like they don't call you unless there's a problem. Right. Either money issue or like you don't have enough credits, or there's some criteria. Otherwise, they're pretty much hands off. If there's something for you to know about it, it comes in an email. So they're like, we got some news for you. My wife answers the phone, and like I look over at her, and she's like white as a ghost because she's thinking something terrible's happened. Yeah, because Hunter's going to graduate, so she's thinking like he doesn't have enough credits to graduate, or he missed something, or they didn't turn something in. So she's like immediately like panicking, legitimately panicking. And no, they're like, we want to inform you that Hunter, according to what we have, is valedictorian. Wow. Yeah. So that's cool. That's a shock. Like I legit started crying. Like it's like, holy cow. I was just so shocked by the whole thing. First of all, I didn't even know it was a thing. I just figured that was two things. One, I didn't think it was a thing. And two, I didn't even dream that it was a potential thing for my child. Not to say that he's not smart or works hard or any of that. I shouldn't have graduated high school. And I flunked out of college. I can't even tell you, 3 times. I flunked out of college 3 times. So, so the fact that like somebody even looked at my kid and went like, "Oh yeah, you're valedictorian," is pretty shocking. So it was like a huge surprise for us, and for the fact that we didn't even know that it was a thing for their school. And I don't know how many kids are going to graduate this year. I mean, he could be valedictorian of 3 students. I don't know. But like I said, like, who cares? That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Regardless, that's cool.
That's rad.
Yeah. So it was pretty. It was the cherry on top this week. It was pretty dang cool.
So then you get to drive up to Portland and do the trip with Hunter, and he talks his head off the whole time. You have a good time with him, then you come back and find out he's going to be valedictorian.
Yeah, so it was a nice, pleasant surprise, you know. I don't know where I was going to go with that, other than the fact that I was super proud of him, and he surprised. You know, it was just a surprise. You know, it was like getting the mail and finding a check you didn't know was coming. Or, oh wow, hey, cool. So it was good times.
That's good
times. Yeah.
Congratulations, Hunter.
Yeah.
Sensei Salsi, I mean. Sensei Hunter Salsi. Sensei Hunter.
There we go. One of the things, the other thing, you know, I wrote down a bunch of stuff. We were going to the seminar. We were going to listen to this lecture by C. Joe Bruce. And I wrote down a list of questions I wanted to ask him. And we submitted questions and all of this stuff. And I was so excited in the moment, I completely forgot about all of my questions. Right?
Yeah.
And so we're driving home and I'm like, oh, crap. I remembered I didn't get to ask him this question. So I'm going to send him an email about it probably. But that was one of the things that we based the lesson off of today, the gazelle punch from boxing. And if that's related to a technique we have called the quick close. And that's one of those things that like, I could just punch myself in the mouth for forgetting to ask.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll have to fire off an email to Mr. Terrell and find out if my hunch is correct, because that would be a good one to talk on. Topic.
Well, I think it's really cool that you guys made the journey, right? Like you make a journey, you set the day aside, and you make the journey to go do something. Yeah.
One of the other things that was really funny on the drive up there, right? So it's literally dumping rain. Like to the point where I'm going, I wonder if I should pull over and like try and wait some of this out. But it's Oregon. It always rains. You know, I've been going up to Oregon since I was an infant because I've got a bunch of family up there. And that's my earliest memories of Oregon, is it raining.
It's always raining. Yeah. It's the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. But like me being from California, you know, I'm like, okay, this is getting pretty heavy, right? So we're driving, and I know where Portland is, but I don't know exactly like where the hotel is that we're going to. I don't know exactly where this place is, where the seminar is going to go. So I've got Google Maps going, and it's telling you. And we're about an hour outside of the hotel. And Google Maps is like, okay, and you know, in a half a mile, you're going to take an exit to the right? Well, it never fails. Traffic cones and traffic signs are up. And it's like, if you're going to this destination, you're going to exit on the left. Now we're on I-5. And I'm like, that can't be right. That's got to be somebody screwed up there. You don't exit the freeway off of the fast lane, right? And it's like, I've got a half a mile to think about this. So I'm like, okay, what lane should I be in? Because I'm going to have to exit. Google's telling me to exit on the right. The traffic signs are all saying on the left. I'm like, oh crap. And it's dumping rain. It's pitch black outside and there's a lot of traffic. So I can't just I can't zigzag my way through this, and I can't stay in the center lane and cut across the lane to exit. So I'm like, I'm going to roll the dice here. I'm going to get off on the left. We're not supposed to get off on the, everything in my soul is screaming at me like, you don't exit off the left side of the freeway. Sure enough, but I found out later they didn't actually close the highway. They had it open, but it was a detour. So I exit off the left side of the freeway, and it was like about 4 miles out of the way. It took us through this other town and circled around and jumped back on the freeway like 5 miles later. There was bridge work that was getting done. So, and if you wanted to, we were going to change from I-5 to another highway, and I can't remember the name of the highway right now. But if you wanted to get to that highway, you had to take this detour.
Gotcha.
So the exit was like for some other town right there. And I think it was the only exit. So they didn't have a choice. You had to exit there. And so then we took this other exit. And of course it's pitch black. So I have no idea what kind of landmarks or anything. I'm just at this point, I'm just like, well, I got Google Maps, and as long as I got a cell service, we'll figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So exit off the left. And it's one of those exits that it's like not for a town or a gas station or anything. So there's no like lamps, there's no street lights, there's nothing. I couldn't even tell you what kind of landmarks there were. It was just pitch black and raining. So I was like, this is how all these horror movies start, right? That's like the whole thing going through my head. The level of panic is slowly increasing. Like, well, at least we'll be dry. I don't know what else to do. But yeah, that was like the whole level of excitement there. It wasn't too exciting. Figured it out. Got back on the highway. Got back on the highway like 4 miles later, and kept going to the destination and made it. But it was definitely a head scratcher there for a minute. I don't think I've ever been on a freeway. Maybe I'm showing my ignorance, but I don't think I've ever exited on the left-hand side of the freeway. I mean, I've had a lot of other experiences on the freeway, but I don't think I've ever exited in the fast lane. It was just one of those things where you're just like, this is not supposed to happen this way.
It's not, this is weird.
Roll with the punches, keep going.
Yeah. I think in some bigger cities, there's like, maybe you merge into a different freeway on the left.
Yeah. I think so. And I think like carpool lanes sometimes will have their own entrance and exit from the freeway.
Oh, interesting.
But I've never had to do that.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
And then just like out of the blue, just to have it like that, we're just like, oh no, we're gonna exit here.
Yeah,
and it was literally lined up with the other exit. So like you could exit off the right or you could exit off the left, but you couldn't go forward anymore because that part of the road was closed. And so I was just like, crap, we'll go left.
Oh, that's good. No, that's part of the journey. That's
the experience, right? Like
I don't know. I mean, it sounds like it starts out as like that was like the start of a horror movie, but
or a bad comedy.
But like, I mean, that's 2 black belts in your car. Like, I don't know, it's probably worse off for the bad guys when you get there. Like, no, we'll let these 2 black belts go. We'll get the next car. Like, yeah, it was a horror movie for the bad guys.
Yeah. No, it was just one of those things where like my brain didn't want to allow this to happen. You know, it's like, this is not the way, this is not the norm. This is not what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
You know, we don't eat grilled cheese on Thanksgiving. We have turkey, you know?
Right. Yeah.
What do you mean? But the fun stuff was the seminar. It was just amazing. Getting to see all of those guys, getting to see, like, talk to Bruce Terrell and seeing old friends and seeing new friends, and then just to get a little bit of that history that I've been wanting since I was like 12 years old, since we first started, you know, before the internet, before you could just look stuff up, before you could just be like, oh, I know this guy. I want to reach out. You know, I've heard of this guy. I'm going to reach out to him. You know, nowadays you could do that. Whether or not that's reciprocated is a different story. But, like, you know, in the old days, if you didn't have a phone book with their contact information, there was really not a way to get a hold of a complete stranger.
Yeah.
You know, and nowadays you can look anybody up and pretty much, I mean, if as long as there's electricity, you can find out information about a complete stranger, you know? And so it was pretty dang cool. It was pretty dang cool.
Oh, very cool. I mean, to go back to the roots.
Yeah.
To the roots. Yeah. Like Bruce Lee says, to understand, you got to what he's saying, the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, he says, to understand all the blossoming and all the blooms, you've got to understand the root, because like, you know, the root of
that's the beginning
apple tree won't blossom into a pear, right? Well, okay, maybe that's a bad example, but well, because a lot of fruit trees are grafted onto other root stocks these days. That's a bad example, right? You buy a certain type of fruit, like a peach tree, and it's grafted onto a pear root or something like that. So you know where I was going.
I know where you're going.
To understand the blossoming, you got to understand the root, and so you went up there and you understood.
I got to dabble with the roots.
You got to see the roots and see where it came from. Yeah. And so, that was pretty cool. And I hope I didn't butcher that quote of Bruce Lee's, but I think that's what it was. And so you got to find out that, so like we've talked about before, Wing Tao, it was kind of on the verge of dying out completely for a while. And then we knew that we had our school. Yeah. And then we have Sensei Hovis here locally and some other black belts locally. But Sensei Court Blaine was keeping the school alive and keeping the art alive here. And then Sensei Blue in Wisconsin. Yeah. But then we knew about Master Hoff doing kind of the traveling, and he had his competition team or his that he was working with. But you found out that there's
there's another school in Tillamook, Oregon that does
Wu Ying Tao.
Yeah, and that I can't remember the young lady's name right off the top of my head, but her father was a student, had a school, and I don't know if she took over or if it closed down and they reopened it, something like that. And I met her once before, but this was the second time I'd met this young lady, and she's got a school, and she brought down half a dozen people from Tillamook to Portland, and they did the seminar, and it was really cool to see that. And then
I think you said there was a female competition team.
So that was apparently at one time they had an all-female team that was going through the tournament circuit.
From that school in Tillamook, or just like separately?
From the original school. Oh. Apparently.
But I mean, they're not going around anymore, so that was cool. Okay.
No, that was like, I don't even know. I hesitate to even say what time period because I can't remember. I don't know, but that would be something to dabble into.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It was awesome. It wasn't just a boys' club. Apparently, that's one of the things that I always thought it was like a boys' club or a fight club. And it kind of sounds like, talking to some of these guys. It was really awesome. So the seminar was held in a Wing Chun school. And so I got to play with a wooden dummy for a little bit for the first time. And that was awesome. To apply some of the things that I know, and then to see if I could, like, because I've always wanted a Wing Chun dummy, a wooden dummy. I always wanted to train on one, but I've never had the opportunity. So to get to, like, put my hands on it for the first time and see how well some of the stuff we do translates, and it's hard to explain. It was, I don't want to say it was natural, but it felt very familiar, like doing some of the stuff that we do and seeing, like, it was like, oh, I understand how this works. Like, gotcha. I'm familiar with this tool, even though I've never used it before. Like, I know where my hands go. I know what to do with this thing. And it was like, it was really cool. It was like, oh, I could play with this for a bit. Like, oh, wow. And I'm sure like some of the stuff I was doing wasn't correct, but it felt very natural. Like, I was like, okay, here's how I hold my hands. That's what this is for. And like, I could do it. I was like, oh, this is cool.
That's cool.
That's one of my, I'm going to add to my goal list, and I want one of those bad.
A Wing Chun dummy. Yeah. Those are pretty cool. They're pretty expensive, but they're pretty cool.
Yeah, but I have two neighbors that are woodworkers, and I think I could get some plans off the internet pretty easily.
Yeah.
So I think we could probably
get one.
Whittle one up. Yeah.
That's pretty
cool. The wood will be an expense, but I don't care.
Get a Wing Chun dummy. Heck yeah.
It'd be fun.
But I'm really interested in knowing, like, I really think it'd be cool to so my experiences with Wing Tao, I've not traveled anywhere else and trained like you have. Like, I was in Portland. I was going through Portland one time and tried to stop and find the original Wing Tao school, and I couldn't find. I mean, I think I found it, but there was no signs or anything. Yeah. But I wouldn't have been able to train anyways there when I was there. But I've never traveled to see to Sensei Blue's school.
We're gonna fix that.
Yeah.
We're going to definitely fix that. That's one of the things I talked to Sensei Blue about.
Is going out there.
Is going out to Wisconsin. They did it. That's the other thing that I needed to talk about. Those guys are super impressive. My hat's off to them. They drove 30 hours straight, 3,000 miles to get to Portland from Wisconsin. So kudos to them. They rented a van and packed everybody in there and went out.
Wow.
Yeah, they had a bunch of stops on the way back, like different friends, different people. So they stopped. They made it a much longer journey back, I think. But they bonsai'd out to Portland from Wisconsin.
30 hours.
Yeah,
straight.
they were tag teaming the driving duties, I guess. Somebody'd sleep in the passenger seat, the other guy'd drive, and then they'd tag off, and they had a rotation going. So it's like, that's some dedication.
Yeah.
That's some dedication.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do 30 hours in a car like that, just stopping for gas. Yeah. So yeah, kudos to them for that.
Well, and so with that being said, it's the reason why I'm so interested in hearing about the other schools and where else Wing Tao is taught is because to go to another school and see how they teach Wing Tao, like, that's just so interesting to me. And we have so I've been to, like, the martial arts super show. I've been to other karate schools. I've learned and other locations outside of our dojo,
but not the same school.
Not the same school. Location. And Sensei Blue has came out here and taught us here. We have Sensei Hovis coming in. We've had a couple other black belts come in, Tony Long.
Yeah.
And so we've had that experience, but like to go to another school onto their territory
and do the same stuff, but in a different light.
Yeah. Like, and I'm just curious, do they have the same belt requirements that we do to rank up, or is it in a different order?
Yeah.
Do they, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, and so that's just super interesting. Whereas you can have, gosh, we've got a couple of Kenpo karate schools here locally. So you can be like, oh, I want to go learn Kenpo karate at this school, then go over to this school, or Shotokan, or just all these different styles. You got BJJ schools. You've got all over the place, right? So you can go learn BJJ at a different school. Us, we don't have that option here. It's Wing Tao, and that's where we are the school here.
Yeah.
And the next closest one is Oregon, or if you want to go to Wisconsin.
That's true. I haven't thought of that.
Like we don't have that as an option.
We don't have that luxury.
Yeah. And so I just think that'd be really interesting. And that's why I'm interested to know, like, hey, how many other Wu Ying Tao schools are out there? Where's the other teachers? And
what are you doing?
Yeah. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. Like you got something. Get out there. Go teach it. Yeah.
Especially when you have a different teacher that teaches things the same thing, but from a different perspective, like you were talking about those overlapping concepts.
Yeah.
Same concepts.
And not only that, but like the way they think about it and the way they plan their lesson. It's like a fingerprint. Everyone's got a little bit, they put their own spin on things. The overall structure is probably very similar, but they add their own spice, know? Like you cook your steak differently than I'm going to cook mine.
Right.
It's still going to be a steak, baby.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it was just an experience that I want to do again and again. And also it really lit that fire back up for me. Not that it was like dwindling or anything. It just was like, oh yeah. It's like refreshing. It's just super fun. And refreshing. Yeah.
And refreshing, and to see the roots. And I bet that was just so cool to see that one former student hold up his old uniform with Wu Ying Tao on it.
That was shout out to Ricky and Dennis that were there. And a shout out to all the other gentlemen that have reached out to me. I can't name you all. I can't remember, but it was phenomenal. I can't wait to get back up there and do it again.
And that's so interesting that those guys and gals, they all trained together back in the 60s, and they're still kind of, they've got their, I don't think those guys are still currently training, or they kind of are involved. They kind of are around it, but maybe not actively training.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't ask. I mean, some of them, they all, I wouldn't say they were like out of shape or anything. So it looks like they all stay fit somehow. I don't know that they're actively training, and I don't know what their group does when they do get together, if they just sit around and tell old stories and check in on each other and have lunch and call it a day. I don't know. But maybe by us going up there, we can light that fire up for them again. Maybe that would be fun.
Yeah. Maybe
find out. We'll find out. I think that's good. What do you think?
I think we're good.
Unless you got anything else to add to that spice.
No, I just I think, like you already said it, it'd be nice to get a lot more of the practitioners of our art, or former practitioners, on the podcast.
Yeah. We're coming for them. For sure. Friends, if you stuck with us this long, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We're at 96 episodes as of this one today, and sky's the limit. We're going to keep going until put us in the ground. If you like what you saw, and you want to reach out to us, our contact information, we have an email address, formlesspod@gmail.com. We have a Facebook group called the Formless Pod, an Instagram page, and X page, all under Formless Pod. We have a website called theformlesspod.com. We have more information there. All of our YouTube stuff is on there, as well as the podcast and shirts, hats, stickers, bag books. You name it, it's on there. Take care.